Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat with Girja. I'm Girja Bhargav Patel, your host for Law Chat, and I am so excited for you to join us today. I have some amazing guests on Law Chat, and they're here to share their experiences and entrepreneurial journey with us, and through their storytelling, mentorship with us, because that is the whole point. We are all entrepreneurs and we're all on a journey, and learning from one another is the best way for us to move forward in our journey as well. And I have amazing guests who are so willing and ready to share their stories with us, their challenges and their victories and their achievements, and also their mindset. I just can't wait to share that with you, and I also just can't wait to have that conversation with them. It's such a privilege to have each and every one of them here with us today, and also it's such a privilege to have you listening in and tuning in. So let's dive in to Law Chat with Girja.
Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat today. In today's episode, we are packed with information on how a successful business on wine without whining and enacting change and making a difference all at the same time. My friend today, Keri Henry, has come and joined us, and she is teaching us and educating us and also sharing her story about how she started and where she is today through her work of helping others in her philanthropy. But then also she said, I'm a champion of excellent causes, excellent food, and excellent wine. And if you haven't caught her on your Instagram, you need to go follow her because she has the best reels out there. Like, she's killing it on the reel thing. I actually look at your reels and I'm like, wow, I wish I could do that because it's awesome. So welcome to the show, Keri. I'm so excited to hear from you, and I'm sure everybody else will be learning so much from you today.
Thank you. Thank you. That makes me laugh because it's all still new to so many people. So we're all playing. It's like a little playground for adults with our phones.
Well, I mean, honestly, like your reels, and what is your handle really quickly? So if anybody wants to just...
Keri, my first name _Henry. Yep.
It is, your reels are so funny. They're not just entertaining in the sense of, oh, I'm being educated, but they're funny. I enjoy seeing them. And I think you kind of do it on a daily, which is pretty darn awesome also.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a whole thing behind it. You know, it's like, I have so much fun with it. Why not have fun, where we can now, but also the analytics, the engagement is insane. And I learn from the experts. I mean, I listen to, experts in social media marketing, and they're like, get over here and Tik Tok and Reels. And I'm like, okay. And, a lot of it is, it's kind of weird because a lot of it's kind of copied. Like you're copying somebody else's, humor
right,
or something, but you put your own spin on it. Mm-hmm. So it's okay, so some people that don't like that, and you can create your own for sure. But anyways, it's fun.
Well, we'll actually get into that in a little bit later, because I know that is where you have pivoted into coaching for social media strategy, which is so cool because I think you actually are crushing it right now on Instagram. So I'm definitely going to be excited to hear some of your tips on that. But before we get there, you have a whole journey that got you to where you are today. So let's talk about that. Where does your entrepreneurial journey start?
So, I mean, I went to get my undergrad, or for my undergrad, I went to Texas A&M University in College Station. I, like a lot of people, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I went to liberal arts, was in the School of International Studies. I minored in Spanish. And I did a lot as a child. I did a lot with the arts. I was in dance, and then I competitively showed horses, which kind of taught me, I think, the competitive side, and then the political side, working hard, and then, people paying money under the table, and then, winning over you, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, I wanted to have a big professional career, maybe in law or actually working for the government. I went to the Bush School of Government and Public Service. I studied like terrorism in today's world, democracy in developing country. And I actually applied for the CIA and wanted to be, some sort of assassin or spy, work for the State Department, whatnot. But that kind of quickly shifted as I read more and more books about, that. And
yeah, well, it's not all born identity. So, you know, that looks,
and how
that looks
quickly they
sexy.
can turn on you. Yeah, no, I'm like, ah. And so my father, he's a pediatric neurosurgeon here in Houston. And my grandfather was a rocket scientist. So I tell people, I got into speaking at one point. I was like, you know, here's my opening line. It's like, you know, how everybody knows the expression, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that out, or a rocket scientist to figure that out. I was like, well, I lived that life as a, you know, all growing up. And I was wondering, what is my thing, you know? And I joke now, and here I am selling wine, you know? So, but I know I had it in me to do something, to get into something big. And really, it didn't manifest until a few years ago, but I'll kind of work my way up to that. But I ended up coming out of college. I was back home with my parents. We're called the boomerang generation. You know, you leave and you come back right back to your parents. And so I did that with my parents. I'm like, I can't do this. And I just basically took any job I could. I took like an admin assistant job, not knowing that would, you know, put me in a hole, my resume, basically labeling me as a glorified secretary with a degree, you know? And so I had no idea. I just wanted to make some money. And then I ended up, in the corporate world for 2 or more years, basically as an assistant. And then I moved into an international sales office for an oil and gas company. And so I was like, oh, I'm in the international department. Maybe I could work my way into marketing. And it was really tough because it was, I found that like a lot of times, I don't know, it was just competitive among women in an office. And it was tough for me to work kind of in that world. The men were willing to like help and train, you know, but then the dynamics I didn't enjoy of that corporate scene. And so I went into teaching actually in elementary school. And it was amazing because I was like, I am outside on a playground in the middle of the day, when before I was in downtown Houston on the 54th floor of a building, you know, and in the fall, like you enter in the dark and you leave in the dark. It was just, I didn't like that world. So
how did you go from there to being a teacher? What was that step look like?
It was interesting. It was actually it was a little controversial in a way, because I on my last month or so at my work where I had put in a transfer request into like the marketing department from being an assistant in this international as like an admin in the international department with these sales guys. And anyways, they, you know, had support from the manager above me, but then the head of the VP of that department, he was just very like, he knew I wanted to move in somewhere, and he was showing around some new receptionists, and he pulled me into the office and he said, and here's somebody, for example, you know, you can look at, this is a girl right here. She's just going to go off and get married and have babies. And, you know, so you really just kind of take this how it is with this job. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I just put in for a transfer, and you're like already placing me at this level. That's it. And I told a girl that works for him, and it ended up being like, he called HR and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, so that's weird. Like, you know, I knew I was done there. I was just like, I'm not one to be defeated, but I'm not going to be going anywhere here. I moved out into teaching. And I don't even know how that came about, but I loved it. I taught 2nd and 4th grade. It was something different. And I just had a sting on the corporate side. And I think I had it in me. I wanted to be my own boss. You know, I somewhere in me, I was like, I'm not going to treat people a certain way based on anything. And, you know, and so, yeah, I went into teaching. I did get married and have babies. And so I essentially, with my teaching, I didn't make enough to put both kids in daycare. My husband was getting his MBA at Rice. And we were both just like, I wanted to work. I'm a workhorse. I mean, I just love to be active, to work. I don't sit down. We don't relax. We're both, my husband and I are very active and very entrepreneurial. I got introduced to like the direct sales world with a skincare company because it was like, I researched any work from home jobs I could find. And since I'm bilingual, I thought I could do like maybe some sort of translating, but I'm not native bilingual. So it was tough to get into either hospital, medical translating, or, you know, it's harder than you think. It's like if you could speak Spanish and you're not a native Spanish speaker, it's tough to find a position in a way. And so anyways, I got into that world and I learned kind of how to start my own business. It was the nitty gritty. It was a tough business. It was, obviously sales, but a lot of like, oh, I feel like after a few years, I'm annoying my friends. I'm that person. I don't want to be the spammy person. And it doesn't have to be that way. And now I'm learning and teaching that, but I learned the hard way. Like, they kind of died out. And a friend of mine who introduced that business to me, she's an attorney, and we both, left that path kind of at the same time. And I went into then the food business and tried to build that world. And that was just, I love anything food and cooking. And I have a family member who's in the food world. And she really opened my eyes to an amazing artistic side of the food world. And at that time, Instagram was really getting out there, and you could see a lot of online marketing, and a lot of people were using the platform just for like, social selfies, this and that, Facebook, Instagram, for along this way. And this is like, 2014, 2015, my second child is getting older, and I'm still looking for these home businesses. And I was doing that. I was growing a food business, and actually food styling as an assistant, and then trying to kind of take it on my own. And then Harvey hit. I had photographers I worked with, and one of my main photographers I worked with, who moved back to London, who's from London. And I just needed to pivot. I wanted to be able to bring in money, but what ended up really happening was this is where my calling, my deep down passion and calling to be something and do something bigger came in, I think, from my dad and my grandpa. And that was the fact that I was sitting on my couch and on Facebook on Sunday, August 27th, when the water started to rise with Hurricane Harvey. You see it building and building, and you see this rain path not stopping. And I live in West University area, and we are in this area. Our homes don't flood, but our streets were completely locked in. But the neighborhoods around me where I grew up, where I went to middle school, and Braeswood and Bel Air and Meyerland, all those areas were the homes, the people were completely trapped, and many of them. And so in my neighborhood Facebook group, I have a neighbor, just lives houses down. He put up a picture of he's a car dealer. He always has fun cars outside of his house. And he put up this picture of this huge military vehicle. And he said, I am out. I'm going to be out in this beast. I can help you if anybody needs help. And this was kind of as it was starting to roll in. And essentially I watched that post, and I saw hundreds of comments over several hours flow in, and I was just reading them. And the way the best way to describe it is like you're on the inside of a 911 dispatch, reading people's cries for help, because 911 at this point was broken for Houston, all of Houston. And you could kind of get through, but they were inundated with calls, no pun intended. And so my interpretation, the way I saw it was like, I have to do something. I can't just sit by and not do anything. And so I basically started writing by hand these people's addresses on the comment section in this post, just this neighborhood post. And no telling what's going on in these other neighborhood group chats. And then I put a call out, and this is 2017. So it's when Facebook initiated that like colorful backgrounds. They just released that. So I put a red background and white wording, and it said, we need boats in Houston. Who has a boat? Because, and the reason I knew is because I talked to my neighbor who was coming back from those neighborhoods, and I said, hey, I saw your Facebook post. What's going on? How can I help? I was walking in the neighborhood, and he said, I can't do anything. He's like, we need boats. I can't get to them in this big truck. And he's like, I'm going to flood it out. I was like, what do you mean boats? He's like, we have to have boats in the city, or we can't get to these people.
I tell you, I was on the Bel Air side, because I live in Bel Air. So I'm just some miles away from you, not even that far. And our street luckily also just got flooded. We didn't get our homes were not flooded, fortunately. But I kid you not, just the street over, the street here, the street there. Our friends were frantically, because their first floor was all flooded. And they were
Yes.
just like, we need to get out of here. We don't know how to get out of here. And I know some other people got their boats, just happened to have boats in their house also. And they got on the boats and they went and rescued people. And it was just, Houston was at its best during Harvey. I mean, I've never seen another, I mean, I'm sure there are other cities that do this, but Houston just showed the beauty and the love that we have for each other. And it was just the most beautiful situation during Harvey, even though it was terrible, but it was still very beautiful. And I know that that's what you also did. So going back to your story of boats.
Well, I mean, then what happened was that neighbors saw neighbors crying for help.
Yeah.
I tell the story, and it's hard for me, and this kind of can go into the mindset shift of, so what I did, I crowdsourced boats, right? So I got boats. I got people who people who had boats in Austin and San Antonio. And then I got connected with people in Louisiana, like a whole fishing team in Louisiana. I got connected with the Cajun Navy people. I got all those connections. And then I was just another person they could, coordinate with on where, send me an address, send me a place to go. And I'm like, okay. And so I started, when I finally got through to the fire marshal, because my whole original intention was just to like call for these people to, when they got through to 911, or when I got through, I would just give them addresses because these people couldn't get through. That was my whole first intention. And then they said, we can't take your victims' names and we can't take your boats. Because I said, I will have all these boats now too. This list of phone numbers. And they said, we can't take that information. And they had their reasons, I say, because they need a whole lot of information to make sure that they have the right, medical stuff, and that they're not going to a place they've already left and been rescued, and all these logistics and red tape in a way that volunteers don't actually have. So I'm like, okay. So I started dispatching and matching boats to homes. And I realized I started getting so overwhelmed, and I kept getting messages after messages after messages. I mean, you got newborn babies and elderly and 300 people in an apartment complex over here. And we've got all these teenagers in our house. And then we've got this woman who needs refrigeration for her medicine, and so you've got all these calls and all these cries for help. And I eventually realized I am not very familiar. Like if I send a boat over to Meyerland, how can they pull out and then go over here to Bel Air? We need a better system. And so I then formed a team, and I'm kind of writing a book about this process. And so, you have a problem, you have a burning desire to fix the problem. This is all part of like getting unstuck. And so the third part is you don't take no for an answer. So I was like, they told me no. I'm like, okay, I'm still going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Number 4, formulate the team. A friend was like, how can I help you? I see what you're doing on Facebook. Like, tell me what to do because you're doing awesome, but how can I help? And I said, are you good with spreadsheets? Can you, and I took pictures from my phone of all my handwritten notes, and she typed them all up and put it in an Excel spreadsheet. And then finally, we joined forces with a friend of mine who's also an attorney. Well, actually, I didn't know him. I just met him through this. He's an attorney. And he had a friend who had created these Google forms. I have help. You can fill this form out, or I need help. And you fill this form out. If you have a boat or if you need a boat, basically. And so then that way I didn't have to start writing names and all that. We just started sending these Google forms to people. And so we created this dispatch system. We had a group text of all of our boaters and everything. And so through all of that all happened. I got a friend of mine who knew a reporter with the Washington Post, and he ended up contacting me to tell how I use social media to crowdsource and help others. And, that it's not just this tool for selfies, but like it can be used for amazing things and helping save lives, right?
Yeah,
So,
in a crisis, like a hurricane that hit us.
And I took that, and then of course, like that ended, and then next the hurricanes kept coming, and so we kept going east with helping and dispatching. And then I got involved in the Puerto Rico efforts we had friends that were running planes out of Millionaire Airport here in Houston, and people donating their jets, and friends were sourcing medical supplies. I was just kind of facilitating it. Like I was just like, let me come pick them up with my car, or, who else has a friend who has any medicine or medical, extra supplies. And we were sending them on airplanes to Puerto Rico. And then then I got involved in like the wildfires in Napa and Sonoma because I was like recycling the leftover N95 respirators from people mucking and gutting their homes, because a friend, or actually a random person on Facebook, cried for help saying we need respirators for children and elderly because we cannot breathe in these wildfires. I'm like, we have tons of them left over here in Houston. So yeah. So I was just like, it was awesome. I had to get my mom, I was working also in a warehouse doing like the supply side and sending supplies out into communities. I worked in this brewery that basically where JJ Watt sent all those 18-wheelers with water and bleach. All these football teams started sending supplies. So I was trying to help also like inbounding and outbounding of supplies. I loved working in a warehouse, the forklifts and everything. And I had to finally just stop. I had to go back to my family and my kids. I got addicted to helping. A friend of mine, she made a shirt that said #addicted to helping, because a lot of people were in that same boat, quote unquote.
Right.
And you have the survivor's guilt, you have the imposter syndrome, you have the, all that PTSD from these kind of things. If you live on a street and your whole neighborhood around you flooded, you feel a sense of guilt, right? I got written up in this paper, and here like these, policemen and firefighters, they do this every day, and I'm like, who am I? Like, I didn't do this. This wasn't a one-man show. I had a team, it wasn't me. It wasn't anything I did different. There were other people who were doing this. And so there's a lot of that going on, but I know that if I keep telling the story, it could encourage and influence people to take action when that happens. And I've done that and used that. And I'm like, oh, people are probably so sick of hearing from me, but you never know who you can, teach in a way to do that next time when that happens. So that happened. And then the wine thing came in after that.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway from what you just said right now with this whole story of helping and really stretching yourself in areas that you're uncomfortable with or just unknown, is that you didn't take no for an answer. And I think that speaks volumes, because when we don't take no for an answer and we know deep down this is what we need to do, we move forward with it very wholeheartedly, very determined. And no is just, okay, you're just another stumbling block. I'm not even stumbling. I'm going to move past you. I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately, and they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now back to our awesome conversation. So I think Harvey was a catalyst for you. And if we rewind a little bit, I also feel like that boss at that time when you were working in the downtown office was also a catalyst, in a sense where you got more determined that I'm not going to take whatever you're saying over my life to be the truth. I'm going to create my own truth. And is that the kind of mindset that helps you move forward and really go from, being a teacher to doing beauty and then food and then helping and now wine? And then, so how does that help you go from one spot to the other, your mindset?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had other scenarios come up with close relationships and friends and family, things that have happened where I'm like, I'm going to be the better person. I'm going to do the better thing. And I don't know if I am doing the right thing or the better person, but in my gut, I have a friend who's actually like an intuition coach, which is funny because you can kind of create a niche for anything, and it makes a lot of sense. It's like, go with your gut on something. We're talking and she's like, I'm like, these are all the things I'm trying to work on, all these plans. She's like, what is that thing like when you write all this down? What's that thing you need to start doing and do now? And I keep avoiding it. So it's like, you go with your gut on those things, and my gut kept telling me just to keep pushing, and I knew I had the haters, but I didn't really know. I was just like,
Yeah.
am I creating that story? Like, am I making it up in my head that these people think those things? So it was like, I'm 39 now. When I was 36, I think all this happened. Yeah. And I feel like that was when my favorite years have happened after that, when at that age, and I learned a lot about the year after that and the year after that, I learned a lot about personal development. And as part of this story, my friend who is an attorney, she was helping me reimburse these boaters. We're trying to figure out like kind of monetarily how to do all that, or do a GoFundMe and all these things. And so we kind of reconnected, and this was the same friend that introduced me to that like skincare business before,
right.
and which was multi-level marketing, whatever. And so she came to me again. She's like, I'm bringing over a bottle of wine because I'm giving you it as a gift for all that you did. And she's like, by the way, this company's a startup, and it was supposed to launch the day Harvey hit, or somewhere around there. And so I was still kind of like, okay. And she told me, she's like, this is going to be huge. It's part of the, $72 billion wine industry, this organic industry. It's all about, how wines should be made, like in Europe, if you go to Europe and you drink and you feel great the next day, like this
Right.
is, wine
Yeah.
has become this, and all these Netflix documentaries talk about, basically all the sugar and transparency and chemicals and all this stuff. And so this is what I learned is happening in this mass produced wine industry. And so this company, I saw it as just more of like an entrepreneurial endeavor. Like, this is going to be big. And so I jumped in. I didn't know anything about wine. Now I love it. I love learning about it. But the thing about these kinds of businesses is that there's a lot of, and it's so, I loved it because it was social selling. I could use social media. I didn't have to hold like inventory and do all that, but I knew it was this network marketing thing that has a stigma to it. And I truly believed in the integrity of this founder, this female founder who's an attorney, this product that just spoke to me that this is where people are really starting to research and get concerned about what we put in and on our bodies and all that stuff. And, I was really passionate about what their mission was, and then how all the good things they were doing, and then how this could create jobs for people like me whenever I became a mom and I didn't know what to do to make money from home. And you have a lot of these companies out there, and it's really hard to sell for a lot of these companies and hard to figure it out. And it takes people who really have to have a strong mindset. It is not easy. It's not a get rich quick. People sign up, and they prey, these kind of companies prey on women or something. And it's like, you know what you're going to get into. It's not going to be easy. And if somebody sells you on something being easy, run away fast. It is not easy. But I was like, but it is wine, and all my friends drink wine, and they all have kids, and they're all eating clean. And I'm like, so I think this could be a big thing, And so sure enough, I have to work hard, and I am constantly marketing. And so I've been figuring out the online marketing world with this product. And then I figured out in 2020, we had to pivot because we do in-person tastings.
Mm-hmm.
However, since we are alcohol, the sales just went like crazy out. Like thank goodness, like I was in the right business, people drinking the good time and the bad. But we did have to convince people in a way, and our sales teams, that you can do virtual tastings, and they're a blast. And you could do corporate tastings and events, like big events and things like that. And so we've had to pivot. So since I've had to pivot more, and I do like just my own live videos, or videos where I go through wines. Like I have 3 sitting here right now, and I'm like, these are my sexy wines for Valentine's Day I'm going to be opening up. And so I'll go through them, and people will just buy just because like they like to watch and the videos and learn about it. And they literally had no idea all of these chemical additives in wine.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was that. But I realized, if I can do this and pivot, and I've learned all this through online marketing, social media marketing, I had kept seeing these small businesses and nonprofits really suffer with canceling their galas, canceling their fundraisers, their fun runs. And I have been connected over the years with a lot of these nonprofits. I've partnered with them for wine events, but I've also I've been on the advisory board for kids meals here in Houston. And my dad, he was friends with Dr. Marnie Rose of the Run for the Rose Foundation. And they had to they have a huge run they do, and several others, Can Care, and, there's Dress for Success. There's all these, with events. And I spoke for Dress for Success. It was going to be my first big speaking gig there, and I had to do it virtually. And so back in May. And so I was like, okay, so they all have social media presence, but social media marketing is a whole nother job.
It is.
And so my mission is yes, I have my wine thing, but my new job, and I've been doing a lot of free coaching when I want to really find where people are having problems and what people don't understand. Are they willing to use a new app like TikTok, or are they just so scared because my market is late 30s and we are already so distracted. I don't need another app, that kind of stuff. Or are you willing to, so I coach on the confidence of it, the mindset about why you should learn something new, how we can make it real easy in bite-sized pieces, and really I love to focus on the branding and content side too. So and keep it fun. So that's where I am now. That was long-winded.
No, it's, I love your story, because your story is not that simple in the sense this is what I did, now this is what I'm doing. And now, it's just not that simple, straight track that you have. And you made a lot of pivots, and pivots are really 180s from whatever you're doing. And you have to have a very resilient mindset also, and a mindset where you are somewhat bold and somewhat courageous, even though others might be saying other things to you. And so where you are today is beautiful. Where you are today is also a niche that you have found, and you found it through your experience only, through the wine, even though that wasn't your, charity was not part of your gig in the sense. But tell me something. I know you talked just about changing that mindset, because it's not just the charity events. It's not just the, those non-for-profit causes that need that help. I know even for myself, it's gosh, it's so hard to get on Reels, and how much more can you add to your plate, especially, if you're a working parent and you're doing so much. So let's talk a little bit about that mindset that you were talking, how you coach on them. What are some tips that you could give the listeners today about helping to shift that mindset where you are able to pivot, but then also be aligned with what's hot today and what the trends are?
Yeah. So I really start with I feel with this pandemic, a lot of people are exploring or playing with the idea of doing something they're exploring with the idea of doing something that they really love, or that they're called to do. They've had this somewhat time of, yes, working from home or still going to an office, but they're not going out as much, maybe, or a little bit more time for reflection on, are they writing that book they wanted to write? Are they doing, have they see people starting these businesses, or they see the benefits of going online and doing, I don't know, some sort of online product or whatever. So my biggest thing is really ask yourself, I kind of say to my team, because I'm trying to teach them more personal branding rather than, not to say just the wine, but incorporating it into something you love. And if somebody were to call you and you could talk for 2 hours to them, and this is what I heard from somebody else say.
And your team is how big? You have a pretty big team.
I have over a couple hundred people on my team. And so some more active than others. And, but I reached this plateau in a way where, and of course, the pandemic and figuring all this other stuff out, I needed to switch up and do something new in order to broaden the pond that I'm fishing in, I guess. It's a horrible analogy, but to broaden the amount of people and the category of people I'm talking to. And so what I tell people is to find, quote unquote, find your brand. Is what is that thing that you're so passionate about? And it could be anything. And I joke because I have a friend who I said, what is that thing people call you for and that you're an expert on? She's like, it's actually kind of weird, and she sells wine with me. She's like, people call me to pray with them. I'm like, okay, we can run with that. And I'm like, so people who, you could start a group, a private Facebook, or your brand can be your wine drinking prayer warrior. I don't know, you can her pastor, like she brings wine to his house and he's totally cool with it. And, you know, and it's like, there are moms that drink wine and they're Christians that. Or they're any religion, you know, it's okay. Right. In some cultures it's not, and that wouldn't be appropriate for that. But if you truly believe and you can totally pair a gospel teaching with a wine, that's like, I love to give that example because it's a very extreme example, but it totally works because that's her niche. She could totally start a Facebook group of these wine-loving Christian moms that like, you know, where she does interviews and say, what are you praying about this week? And we'll talk over a glass of wine, you know, and how it's okay, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I say,
it's also thinking outside the box. It's stretching outside of the boundaries that we as a society or culturally have created for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that that's what you've also done. You've just like, you're thinking outside the box. I'm not going to take no for an answer. And even in this situation, you know, wine and prayers. I love that.
Well, and my point to that, as far as your time question goes, is if you love something so much, organizing, baking, cookie decorating, whatever it is, boutique jewelry, fashion, interior design, like whatever it is you love, you're probably going to be on the internet scrolling about it on Pinterest or whatever anyway. So if you have some sort of business, or like you can, especially with this wine thing, you can pair that passion with like a wine, you know. So if you're in the art world, you can pair this, you know, bright and lively Picasso with this, you know, bright Pinot Blanc, you know, that has notes of lemon and bright notes of acidity, whatever. And so you can put those two pictures in like a pic collage side by side, and you post it to your group page or Instagram, and you're finding your niche of people, and you're hashtagging to your specific niche of the people you like to hang out with, the people that are just like you. That is who you should be talking to. So then it gets fun, and it's not like some like, oh, I gotta use social media. No, it's like, oh, I'm gonna make this post today. It's about, you know, art and wine, or like, you know, organizing. Cause I posted on my, a story in my pantry, and like, look at my room. For your listeners, it's like a mess. And I've had people say, can I please come to your house and organize your pantry or your playroom? It's like so fun for me. I would do it for free. Those are the people who need to be in a business, or if they do have an organizing business, that's who they can learn how to do these fun, and they know they have to do reels or TikToks. Like I can teach them how to do it really fun. And if they're self-conscious about being in them, I could teach them like kind of how to get over that, but also how to do videos where you don't have to be in it, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, like if you're doing something, like if you're posting about something you're passionate about, then it doesn't take time. Like you could do it in 2 seconds, you know, and it's fun. And so it doesn't feel like you're working, I guess is my point. So yeah, like I just try to like pull out what people really, their passion is, and they have a hard time. Like people have like, do not even want to say it sometimes. They don't want to admit it. They have this firm belief that they're supposed to be doing this, but deep down, you know, that you can get it out of them. Once you do, you know, this kind of stuff isn't as hard. Anyway.
I love that. I love integrating what brings life into you, or brings that ray of light into your life, and just integrating that into your daily marketing, or integrating that aspect into your daily marketing. And then, yeah, you're right. By inadvertently, you're just attracting that kind of an audience also. Yeah, and those people to you. Yeah.
Yep. And for these people that I work with in wine, it's like, that's probably not their passion. I mean, some of them may be super passionate about it. And the same thing goes for anybody who is in network marketing. If it is skincare, pair that with what you do love, and pair, you know, and or promote it on the back end, or put it in your newsletter. You know, there's ways to do that, you know, and so yeah, so it's just, you got to kind of take a different look about it and say, who am I talking to? Who's my audience, and who can I attract? And I didn't understand that for the longest time, because I thought, oh, well, everybody, you know, can see my page. No, it's not everybody. I'm talking only certain people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then what about just getting over the hump of creating a video on Reel? Like it's hard. I mean, and it's not just creating the video. It's the editing that takes time too afterwards. It's not quick. It's not like a 5-minute deal. So how do you help how do you help me overcome that hump, overcome that mindset of laziness, and also, I don't know how to do this. This just is too much work for me now.
Right. So I'm actually, funny you should ask. No, I'm actually putting together a TikTok Reels workshop And it's going to be like an online product, and and it'll have, I break it into 5 parts, like, so essentially my roadmap, and people can go on my Instagram and get the free PDF, which is like my 5 steps to success for social media. And I go over the 5 steps that include confidence, creativity, consistency, clarity, and then collabs or celebrations, or I was trying to think of another C word, but collaborations is a big one.
Yeah.
And so I go through, I have that kind of roadmap that is my basis, but in my TikTok workshop, I really go through like, here's, we're going to talk about your confidence, and really thinking like, why do you want to use this? Why do you think it's important? Obviously it's getting more engagement. They're fun. Okay. So we kind of go through that confidence factor, and I talk about that. And then we go into the creativity side, and we think, okay, like where with the content, how does this work? And I'll go through like, and I like to tell people, look, just while TikTok is still relevant and it's there, right? It's there. I follow a lot of Gary V's stuff, and he's like, this is the place to be. This is where people are hanging out. And if you think it's only teenagers and whatever, you're wrong, because I have a huge mom audience over there, and you could even get your algorithm set, and it's called the For You page, because it's for you. These are the people, the more you watch a video, it's so smart, this technology now. It knows what to feed you next, like what to feed. And so it takes a few weeks maybe to like get your algorithm set to like your market, but that's what's going to happen. And then you're attracting people, if you have something you sell, into their world. So anyways, I teach that, and then you're going to start to see people doing these funny videos. So for example, a lot of my videos I see are these moms posting about wine and funny wine videos. They're not even in my business, nothing like that. And I take their video and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to do that one, and I'll do kind of my own version of it. So seeing other people's creativity and how funny they are, you have to, in the back of your mind,
love that,
go through and scroll intentionally. You are not scrolling for fun. If you're using this for business, this is not like, you will get caught in that rabbit hole. Okay. You've got to do this like with intention. And so you scroll intentionally, you scroll thinking, is this a video for my business? Is this a video for my business? And even a sound, like there's a sound where people do videos and it's like, wee, wee, wee. It's like so simple. And I'm like, ooh, I can do it like popping corks open, wee, wee. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm like, just thought of that. Yeah. And so you see somebody jumping into the water, wee, wee. And like, you're like, okay, how can I do that for my clothing line or for organizing? Or it's like, oh, all these juice boxes in a row, wee! And then in the refrigerator, now it's the string cheeses, wee! You can use that sound for so many different niches, and like for art, like you're a painter, wee, wee, like, so you take this one sound and you think about every post you see on Instagram, TikTok, Reel, whatever, how can I recreate that for my business? And so that takes care of your content side. And not to mention that we go into like hashtags and how to research and stuff like that. So, and then why TikTok? Like you need to just make the video on TikTok because the editing capabilities are so awesome there. Reels is still developing. It's still new. They don't have hardly any of the editing capabilities. So just go ahead and create it on TikTok. And then just, even if you don't care about growing your TikTok, just do it. You never know. Like it can blow up and get 1 million views on like the silliest, stupidest video, I swear. And then you're still just going to take that video. And then I teach in my workshop, like another, you just find ways you could take the like TikTok words off and then you repurpose it over to Instagram, add the sounds from Instagram, match it up, and then just use it there. Oh, wow. So I don't really ever create reels in reels. Maybe if I learn, all this changes so much that that Instagram punishes you for not creating it in there, but I create it on TikTok and then I repurpose it to reels. But for me, it's like, I'm not trying to grow random people. I'm just like, I have my network or new people that see me.
Right.
The difference is, and then we go over that in the confidence section, is that when people see you in a video or hear your voice, it's different than just a still photo. And that's why that's a whole other conversation. That's why Clubhouse is so amazing. It's an audio listen in only. And when you hear people speak like this or on a stage or on a podcast, it's a whole different level of authority or trust or whatever than just seeing a picture of some perfectly filtered influencer with a picture of a bottle of wine. Like it's different whenever you see a video.
Right. Videos, I think, are very essential for a business right now, especially. And I also think it's just a great way to communicate and get that vibe. Like whatever your vibe is, people are getting it. Whatever the energy you're putting out there, people are also receiving it in that video as well. So I think these are such great tips that you just gave.
And last thing about confidence, I will say authenticity is the big winner right now. If you think you need to, like, I got dressed up for this, like you should see me. I'm in my shirt, but I'm wearing like my tennis shoes. Like, I mean, authenticity is the biggest thing. I did a video this morning or yesterday, and it was like this like gorgeous mom, and she's dancing to some Fergie song. And like, I stitched it where I put her video in front, and in the end, I'm like picking up toys. My hair is a mess. And, I'm essentially like, that is not my vision of a mom or whatever. And like that has gotten more interaction than anything where you think you need to dress up or whatever. So I will say, just like, if you think you need to look perfect, like, no, everybody says it's not it's like the big quote about social media, your mess is your message. People see through the BS, and like, just be yourself.
Your mess is your message.
Yeah. It's something our generation isn't totally in tune with yet, but I think the younger generation, they're like all about just like, I'm going to show up looking good. I'm going to show up looking like totally after a workout, and that's authentic. So
yeah. I love these tips. They're so useful. They're also very implementable. Like I can actually do them. It's just a little, I think also sometimes what happens is people are trying to do social media on a whim, and they're not consistent about it. And they kind of just are like, oh, let me just, put this thing together, but there's really no thought behind it. There's no strategy behind it. So what I also get from what you're saying is put a little strategy and time into planning. And once that's happened, then you can actually you're able to bring the creativity out more because you've actually poured some time into it as well.
Yeah. And you have to listen to your intuition with that as well. Like kind of, I guess, like, but it took me a while, but are you more creative in the mornings or in the afternoons? So set up your like, dive in. Like I have so much back end boring work that's tough. Like I have to watch videos and teach me about all this stuff too. I have to watch, I have to build out and write, my templates, all these things. And that's the like sit down and do the work. And making the TikToks and my fun creative work. And I'm like, okay, sometimes I get my creativity in the morning, sometimes afternoon, but when you don't really feel like working, that's the fun time to make those. And you can batch them so you can save them for another day. Sometimes I come in this room and with 5 different tops, and I do 5 different videos, I just batch the content. So
Right. Great.
Or on Canva, go on Canva and then just batch a bunch of quotes. Because if you're lazy and you don't have much to do, just throw a quote up there.
And what's your favorite tool for scheduling? Do you schedule it out?
I am probably the worst. This is why I do social media content coaching, not social media management. So content coaching, I have put my own niche under the umbrella of social media management. And there's Planoly, there's Later. I personally am not a big schedule, and I will tell you a technical reason for that is because Instagram, it may have changed. Obviously, all this stuff changes, but Instagram, unless you have a business account, you can't use third-party planning apps, scheduling apps. So I have a creator account because I want music capabilities on my Instagram and my stories and reels. However, with the business account, and again, this could have changed, they could have improved it, but there was and this is a legal thing, I imagine, with the music rights. If you're a business account, apparently, like you couldn't, because of the music rights and stuff, you couldn't have it. And it's crazy because my Instagram and Facebook's connected, and Instagram allows a lot more than Facebook. Like none of my videos with music go over into my Facebook stories or on Facebook. So I totally stopped. I was a huge Facebook. I was like, I'm never leaving Facebook my whole life. It saved people. And now I'm like, now I can't put my money. It saves people's lives. And so I'm like, oh crap. Well, I can't put that video up because of the music. So I guess I don't know, and so I use Facebook in a lot different way. And that's why like private groups are where it is now. Like organic traffic went from 2%. Now it's probably 0% almost now for Facebook. You gotta pay to play.
Private groups is where it is on Facebook. But yeah, you're right. So I have a business account on Instagram. And so I use Planoly for scheduling. I, for a very brief moment in my life, put it to Creator, which was like just a couple months ago. I put it for like maybe 3 days on Creator account because I'm like, oh, I want the music. But then I couldn't schedule it out and it wouldn't, I mean, so you can schedule on Planoly, but you would still have to do a manual upload onto Instagram as a post. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. Nobody has time for that. And so I had to switch it over to business. And now all of a sudden business has some music, but it's not music anybody wants to use.
Yeah.
And
that's what
I'm just
saying.
like, I'm a little confused around their music choice. But yeah, I think there's just it's a trade-off, different trade-offs that you have. So speaking of legal, and also just, how you brought that in over there for Instagram, but what are some legal issues or legal concerns that you had, or you wish, man, I wish I knew this before I got into this, or I protected myself better?
Yeah. Well, the first one is like I created an LLC for my wine business. I just it was in like my second year and I'm like, okay, my team's getting bigger. So for those who are in maybe network marketing, have teams, especially with this, with it being wine and all that, I made sure I'm going to probably want to protect, myself and so forth. So I did do that. That took a while to kind of get all figured out, but there's a lot of like intellectual property, maybe if that's what questions, like I came up with a name for kind of my branding for the social media stuff. And then I was like, it's kind of one of those things where you come up with an idea and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. And then you feel like you forget you should probably Google if that name already exists or if something, and it's like everything exists now, right? This great, fantastic invention I had. And it's all right. Because my number one strength and my strength finder is ideation, of course. That's right. That's why I'm going into this. I'm an idea person. And so really trademarking or claiming a name for something, if you have an idea for a podcast and how that kind of works in that aspect. And then, so that's kind of my first thing. And then my second, and this is totally random, but I wanted to do a book with a friend and we were going to, and we still really want to, but we wanted to use memes in the book from the internet. Right. And so it's if they're publicly posted and you can't find who was the original creator of a meme, it's impossible. And so I'm like, how can, we were like, how can we do this and create this book where we thought we could, actually donate all proceeds because it was through the pandemic and all this stuff to all the different initiatives. Of course. But if it's going to make a profit, or it's going to, and we're profiting off people's memes, and then somebody had mentioned you may have to recreate all of them, use the same wording, but put it in your own image. I was like, oh my gosh. Cause we've saved thousands of them into an album. And so that was another one where I was like, I probably should ask somebody about this before I go and publish this thing. So,
well, just because something is available on Google doesn't mean it's fair use. Just in case.
Exactly. Well, these are all it's stuff you screenshot from Instagram.
Absolutely.
And Twitter and public posts, but you don't know the creator, unless they put their name on the side. So yeah, I guess social media and what's fair game and what, we have a lot of people that do that with my wine posts or other people's wine stuff, and what people kind of take and steal and share. I think that's a big thing now. And I never care, but what you find with that.
Yeah, actually, it's, the thing is that social media is so new and law is like a dinosaur and it has a hard time keeping up. And so it's still a very evolving area of law. There's some rulings or some laws that have come out or court rulings that have come out that support certain things. And then they'll make all these other exceptions where it's not applicable. So it's very case by case and it depends. Unfortunately, that's the worst answer available. So, but yeah.
But it's awesome. It's a wonderful, to be at the forefront of that or to be, it's something where I had 100% people are going to be seeking out that form of legal advice because
Absolutely. Yeah.
the
I mean,
social
a
media
lot of it's
marketing is
already come
crazy.
out. There's some case law and memes also. There's case law and hashtag ownership, and all this stuff has come
Oh,
out already just because it is there, right? Brands are like, we own this name. How can you hashtag this brand and then call it yours? And so there's a lot of things that have come out, and then even handles and all this. But it's very case by case and very narrow in reading as well. So, but yeah, I think you're right. And I love that you already got your LLC done because it definitely adds such an extra layer of protection to a business, especially when you know that there is exposure to liability, you know, with wine or even with beauty and skincare. So that's great. I love that you took those steps. So I have enjoyed so much talking to you today and just learning so much from you. And if you had one big tip to leave us with, what would that be?
oh man.
I know, but you give a lot of great tips in between too. So
I think, I mean, I'm looking at like quotes around my desk, like, but that I
one,
look at
two, three, whatever you have.
every day. Like, okay, so one of them is what it's like a Tony Robbins quote. I love him because I told you I'm new to personal development. So like who better to go to as the guru of, well, he hates being called that, but of personal development because he
Yeah,
makes you confront your own BS and your limiting beliefs and like all
right.
that. And it's his quote is what stops us from moving forward. And that's fear. And so I think a lot of everything that we do, the reason we, I want to start a podcast. I want to do this online course. And I get stuck so many times. I'm writing a book called Stuck and on just paralysis by analysis because why do I have that paralysis? It all comes back to fear. I'm not doing it perfectly. I'm not doing it right. Like you just have to start,
Mm-hmm.
done is better than perfect. Perfection is a result of fear. Paralysis is a result of fear. All these things all come back to fear and what people will
Mm-hmm.
think, or if I don't do it right, or if I'm not the expert, we think we can't start something or write a book on something, or I was so scared doing this wine thing because I didn't go to school. Like I have really good friends here in Houston that are like incredible sommeliers. And I was like, who am I
Mm.
to post about wine? And they went to the school for crazy, like all this time. Who am I to be in the food business, start a food business? I didn't go to culinary school. And my mom's
Mm-hmm.
like, Rachel Ray didn't go to culinary school. She's too Texan. And I'm like, so there's all kinds of things we tell ourselves and we're fearful because of what other people think, or we're not experts. And you can create that and you can be that expert to somebody, and so you
Yeah,
just have to start. And I think what stops us from moving forward is fear. So,
absolutely. I love that. That's such a great quote. So now just jumping down to some of your favorite facts or favorite things and some fun facts. So tell us, what is something that nobody knows about you or like a fun fact about you? Because I feel like you have a lot
obviously,
of fun facts that you've
obviously
even
I'm an
just.
open book. I'm like, I feel like I talk way too much. So one of them, I like my favorite story is that Super Bowl was just 2 days ago. And so my best memory ever is 2004 Super Bowl was in Houston, and I have a bunch of real cute girlfriends. And today we were walking around the mall, and the girls picked up some football players, and they were like, "Come to our Super Bowl pre-party,"
Oh
and
my.
we ended up driving out super far, and we hung out we watched the Super Bowl with Snoop Dogg in his
No
hotel room
way.
with all his friends and watched the Janet Jackson thing and got on his tour bus. We were like his entourage for hours and hours and
Oh my
hours.
God, I
And we
love
went to
that.
like the PlayStation 2 party. We saw all the celebrities, got to see Tom Brady on stage and,
Yeah,
and the
that was
post game
incredible.
party celebration. And so that's kind of my favorite, like, and I'm like a huge rap music mom, like a rap
Yeah.
mom. And so
Yeah.
that's like a weird thing about me. So I love rap and yeah. So
Wait, was
that's
Tom
my favorite.
Brady with the winning team that year too?
Yes, yeah. We didn't like hang out, but we were with the Patriots in this background. I
Yeah.
don't know anything
That's
about football. So
never
I
either.
was like, ugh. But I know that we came on. We were his like backup dance. We ended up being his like backup dancer. It was really funny
I
because
love
if
it.
you're watching this podcast, I do not look like a backup dancer. But at the time, Von Dutch was like a big brand, and my shirt said Von Biatch. It was really funny. But
Yeah.
anyway, so he, we like walked out and like danced on stage. It was really hilarious. So
Well,
we
what an incredible experience. That's awesome.
Yeah. Weird fun fact.
I like that. And what's your favorite book, since you're reading so many motivation and self-growth books? Do you have anything out there?
So I will say, don't ever like not read because you don't have time. I have Audible, and that I do not read. I listen
Right.
to my books because I just don't have time. And
Yeah.
so I have changed my life. I love it. I can listen to it or I run. And I've listened to it over and over. Is Jen Sincero, You Are a Badass book series. So
Okay.
she has You Are a Badass, and then she has You Are a Badass at Making Money, and then she has a Badass Habits book. And so she is hilarious. She just tells it how it is. She's an amazing coach, and she just puts it, all the things, basically, I say, like that Tony Robbins, it's kind of all the same stuff when you go into mindset and limiting beliefs and getting over yourself. And that book and the money book is really great on getting over this mindset of like, you're stuck at a certain point or you can't make more, how to, really value yourself. So that one is a big one. I love anything Brene Brown, and I love leadership books and a lot of that how to win friends and influence people. I keep going back and telling people about that because he has a remake in the digital age, and it's just such a classic, and it still applies now to really just listening to people. If you're in sales or if you're in any sort of like, whatever your business is, that is just, we have, right. I'm always trying to improve listening more than talking. And so that book really helps you ask more questions and all that. So
awesome. Well, I'm going to have links to all of that in the show notes as well. And before I ask you how people can reach you and connect with you, I wanted to ask you, what is your anchor? What is it that when things just don't go your way, or you're just having a really hard season, what anchors you and holds you steady?
Like I said, I took that strengths finder test. I'm futuristic too. So it's like ideation, futuristic, I'm strategic, I'm a communication, and I'm an includer. And so knowing your strengths, and going towards those and whatever you do. So knowing that I'm futuristic, I don't dwell on what happened in the past. I just kind of pick up and then move on. You can feel those feelings, but then you just move past it. And so I think like I just keep progressing. So knowing your strengths, and you could take like the free 16 personalities assessment or take the strengths finder Gallup test, and knowing your strengths and knowing how you deal with those kind of situations and how you play up your strengths can really help. Because for me to just say, oh, I do this may not work for everybody. Right. And so if you're competitive, you're this or that, like go and find somebody in that realm, like ask for help too. Like that's part of my book Stuck. It's like, if you're stuck, how I need to listen to my own advice, right? Like I need to, what's the problem you're dealing with? Do you really want to fix this problem? Are you going to take no for an answer? And no can come from other people and come from yourself. Most of the time it's from ourselves, telling ourselves no. And then form the team. Who are the people, the experts in your field, or who's the therapist you can go see, or who's, a best friend to call or parent to call, and then 5, take action. Nothing's going to happen if you don't actually do something about it. So those are like my 5 steps for getting unstuck. And so I've seen it with the hurricane. I've seen my dad, he's formed a cure for my niece with a rare disease. It's another mission I do, and how he essentially used those 5 steps. He's told no and formed a team, and they found a cure, and we're trying to raise money for it. So that, I guess that's my thing. It's when I'm stuck, I'm like, okay, I gotta push through and go through these 5 steps.
So much wisdom just at the end right now. I love it. So much wisdom.
Hopefully I'm stuck on writing that book, so maybe you can help me push myself through, but that keeps me going. It's saying it out loud.
Looking forward to seeing your book. I'm looking forward to reading your book, and just looking forward to seeing all the things that you do, because you are very dynamic. And I truly love
Yeah.
following you on Instagram actually as well. So how can listeners reach out to you? How can they connect with you? Where can they follow you?
I love Instagram. I check my DMs more than anything else. TikTok's my crazy side, so don't go there if you don't like.
What's your handle again?
It's the same, Keri_Henry.
Perfect.
You're not into the bad words and stuff. And then and the rap music, But I love the music over there. And then Facebook, you can find me there. Email KeriFHenry@gmail.com. I'm weirdly I do email, I respond to email, but I respond a lot better on Instagram DM because I'm obsessed with social media. I'm on there all the time. So I think that's it.
Well, that's awesome.
And my website, KeriHenry.com. So KeriHenry.com,
yes.
That's a good way to reach me as well.
And then you also have a freebie for them on your Instagram as well.
On my Instagram, you can access. Everybody should get a link tree. I yell at people if they don't have a link tree and they have like 4 things that they love. I mean, you can put your website up there, put your business up there, and then point people to your private Facebook community. Yeah. So my link tree, you can find the free PDF, which again, I was like, it's not perfect, but I'm going to put it out there. These are my thoughts. So it's ever developing. I'll soon have my workshop product that'll be offered through that. So I'll have a workshop, my TikTok Reels workshop coming soon. And then I'm working on a children's book too, just because my family, I saw a TikTok on how you can easily make a children's book and put it on Amazon. So I was like, I'm doing it. So we
easily,
came up with a book.
I don't think that is the situation, but that's awesome.
It's turned not into easily, let me tell you. Yeah. So.
Well, I cannot wait to see all the things that you're going to be doing in the next few years. Thank you so much for being with us today on Law Chat. I love talking to you and I loved all the wisdom you shared with us today.
Yay! I'm excited to connect with your listeners too.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girja. I love these kind of stories and conversations where we can be real, honest, and open, and having fun at the same time. I hope you are inspired and motivated to keep doing the amazing work you are doing. If this is something that gave you all those feels and then some, truly motivated and inspired for you, you can show your love in all or one of these ways. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with your community and tell them about it or share with somebody that can benefit from it. I look forward to seeing you next time on another episode of Law Chat, and until then, keep moving forward. Bye.